If everybody would please take their seats.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is not an official speech. It's only a first greeting by myself as the president, as the actual serving president of the WFIMC, together with the Secretary General, Florian Riem. This General Assembly is unlike as any other before. On the initiative of our highly committed board member, Rob Hilberink, where is he? So please, an applause to him. So we start with applause. He currently is the director of 3 competitions. I think it's a total record for us. So on his initiative and with a high commitment by our staff and team under the guidance of Florian Riem, this conference has been organized. The topic or the objective of all this is to intensify the dialogue between us members, between the dialogue between stakeholders of the international music life and the exchange of knowledge. And it's wonderful to see that we had 146 registered guests between members, between associate members and speakers. It's an absolute record for the WFIMC. As a rule, we are represented here as directors or artistic directors, directors of the competition. But we all know all the success, all the hard work is guaranteed by and done by our teams and staff members. And primarily also the success of the results is linked to that important work. So I think it's very important to open a General Assembly with a framework, with a format which enables all these peoples to talk to each other and where everybody can learn new things. The institutional part of the GA starts on Friday afternoon with all the business agenda, limited only for the members. There's a lot of program to do. Florian organized, together with our hosts in Parma, a lot of interesting things. So wish you inspiring days, a lot of learning lessons, and see you every day more and more inspired for this WFIMC. Thank you very much.
Inspiration is key, really. If I remember, for those of you who were in Hamamatsu, our main topic of the General Assembly was inspiration of Japan. And I think there's hardly a more inspiring place than Parma. I think it's a really beautiful place to be in. And so I would also like to welcome all of you on behalf of the Secretariat to this Marketing Forum and General Assembly. Like Peter Paul said, as long as we can remember, we've never seen so many people attend an assembly, and we're very, very happy about that. I'm very grateful to the Arturo Toscanini Foundation about their help to make this all possible. We recognize that the arrival for some of you might not have been so easy. For some of them might have been very smooth. Others, there were a few odysseys and missed trains, flights, cancellations, etc. As we're glad you made it. And again, a very warm welcome. We do have in this conference a lot of new people, and I would just like to go really briefly through them so you know who is all coming. Some of them are not yet here, but I think it's good to hear the names so you know who is all here. And I ask already in advance for to apologize if I forget someone, because there are so many. We have this time in alphabetical order. I start with Katharina Amon. She's just called in, she's sick, but her staff of Classique in Lausanne, Switzerland is here. We have Dr. Sharon Azrieli, she will be here tomorrow, and Jason van Eyck of the Azrieli Foundation in Toronto, Canada. We have Trianrui Tsai and Kaidun Lee of Pearl River Piano. Efrem Roca and his staff at the Andorra Sax Fest, Andorra International Saxophone Competition in Andorra, who's here for the first time as well. Very warm welcome. We have many of them know him already, Geoffrey John Davis of the Violin Channel in New York. There he is. Enrico Barbieri of the Premio Paganini International Violin Competition in Genova. Graziella Duma, also first time with us, of the George Enesco International Competition in Bucharest. Bu Gon-jung of the Jeju International Wind Competition in South Korea. Sean Kitas of the Gurwitz International Piano Competition. His director, Anja Grokowski, is, I think, coming tomorrow in San Antonio, Texas. Catherine McLeland of Honens in Calgary is with us for the first time. Elisabetta Parisi of the Fondazione Gioventù Musicale d'Italia, the Jeunesse Musicale in Italy, just joined us as a new associate member. Welcome. Chantal Poulain of the Montreal International Music Competition is here as well for the first time, I believe. Good to see you. Anneli Rahn of the Ilmari Hannikainen International Piano Competition, a member that was admitted last year, is with us for the first time. And Takeshi Tada of the Tokyo International Conducting Competition in Tokyo is also with us for the first time. Again, apologies if I omitted someone. Very warm welcome. A few housekeeping things before we begin with our first keynote. We will, after this session, have our reception right outside this hall. You may have noticed, unlike our regular setup for conferences, we don't have tables in this hall. This is a conference hall, but there are no tables. There are also no electricity outlets. So from tomorrow, we will have a charging station for those of you with IBMs who need a recharge somewhere in between. Welcome to use the charging station. The bathrooms, washrooms are up the stairs to the left in case you cannot find them. The Wi-Fi, if you still need it, is the Paganini Wi-Fi, and the password is paganini.123. Very inspiring password. If you did bring brochures of your institution, of your organization, of your competition, please feel free to leave them on the marketing desk outside. A lot of people are interested and want to know what you're doing, so please show them to us. And yes, lastly, I would like to draw your attention to our conference schedule. You should have all received that in your bag. It does not only have the conference schedule in it, but also, if you go further to the back, it has a very important collection of restaurants and shops in Parma that are recommendations of our host, Fulvio Zannoni, who is, where is he? By the way, he's outside still, who we will later on at the party introduce again. Should you have any questions, Fulvio is the one to ask, otherwise the secretariat, myself, or Sarah Betrizet, you've already met her outside, Hana Saito, and Jin Young Kim, who is backstage and doing all the presentations, the PowerPoints, and the live stream. Thank you very much, and it is now time to move on and introduce our first keynote speaker, along with our moderator, Rob Hilbrink, who will be moderating all the sessions from now on. So if you would like to join me here on stage, please.
So let's start off this conference. I'm really happy that it came to fruition. We've been talking about this for quite a while. We always had some, topics where we talk about during the conferences, but never on a larger scale where we can really exchange, our knowledge, our best practices, and also invite inspiring speakers. I do want to also thank Maggie and David for thinking with us, what we should discuss during this couple of days. I hope there's so much we can talk about when it comes to marketing, so we have narrowed it down to a few topics. So I hope it will be enough for you to enjoy. It is an open forum, so please, whenever you feel the need to ask a question or share something that you have experienced, please do, because that's what this is about. So no further introductions. I want to introduce Rob Overman, I'm really happy that he could fit this into his schedule within the wedding preparations for his daughter. Rob is somebody I know for a long time, former manager of the Rotterdam Philharmonic Orchestra, and has done many innovative projects, and I'm sure he will tell you more about that. Rob Overman.
Thank you, Rob. Here's the clicker. Hello, everyone. It's a great honor to be here in Parma, this beautiful cultural city with great gastronomy. You know, we don't have time for big dinners tonight, but I would love to do that. Yes, I had to ask permission to my daughter, because my daughter is marrying in 2 days. So she said this morning, "Where are you going?" I said, "I go to Parma, but you have to prepare my marriage." I said, "Well, not today, I will do it as of tomorrow." So thanks to my daughter, I could be here, and thanks for the invitation. So classical music platforms, new development and perspectives. We will have a lovely session after my keynote. So what I will try to do for you to give some context to what we will be discussing later. So I made you a presentation. I'm Rob Overman, founder of Symphony.live, one of the platforms, a very young platform that we will discuss. And this is what I would like to talk about today. A bit of introduction about my company, Symphony.live. I will talk about the classical world is digital now, but where did it come from? An overview of, let's say, the most important platforms since the 90s. And I will explain a little bit where it came from. The importance of video. Many of you are involved in video, many not. So I will explain a bit about how important video is now and in the coming 10 years. Shortly talking about finding your voice, which is so important. You want to do something special with video, how can you find your voice? The waterfall strategy, I will explain, and then I will end with a showcase, because today, at the end of my meeting, we will open the collaboration with the Rotterdam competition. So let's give it a start. Maybe good for you to know who I am. I have been in music all of my life, since I studied musicology and conducting. And I can divide my life in 3 episodes. First, I was a teacher, a storyteller. Then, for 15 years, I was managing 4 beautiful orchestras in the Netherlands. And after that, I stepped into media because of my belief that media is the best in classical music ever happened. I started a couple of platforms, but you will see that later. First, about the company that I am the founder of. It's Symphony.live. Our mission is to unite the world's great orchestras on our platform, so that people can watch classical music concerts, interviews, soloists, behind the scenes, all of that from every place in the world on apps and on your television and on your computer. What our vision is that we want to connect. We want to connect, and in our case, orchestras, symphony orchestras, chamber orchestras, early music orchestras, contemporary music orchestras. We want to connect them with their fans through our platform. That's a very important thing, we believe, because for orchestras, as you will see later, it's very difficult to do it on your own. So we position ourselves as a technology, a marketing, and a knowledge partner to the orchestras that we work with, and now, as of today, also to competitions. So this is new in our portfolio of partnerships, the competitions, but also the conservatories, universities, festival, and venues, things that our colleagues from other platforms have been doing for ages already. But for us, it's new. So what could be the result for our partners? You can grow your presence as an orchestra. You can grow your brand worldwide by showcasing your beautiful performances and your stories. And in this way, you can leverage the content and also find a business model, hopefully, because that's still very complicated to have business models out of your content. This is an example of one of our great partners, the Cleveland Orchestra. This is their own page on our platform. Every partner is having their own area, both on our public website, that means without a login. You can just visit it, and there's a lot of information. or you take a subscription and you can watch the concerts and the stories of the Cleveland Orchestra behind the paywall. Here you see an overview of the partners that we are currently working with. So we are very, very proud to work with beautiful partners like this. And you have to imagine that we only started 1.5 years ago, a bit more, almost 2 years ago, with our platform. So we're doing well, and we're in a safe place. And that's also something, if you depend on investors like we do, then you might also go bankrupt, which happened to my first company, or you make it. And we're in a safe place right now, and I'm very happy with that. So we go to the next topic. The classical world is digital. How did we get there? Let's have an overview of what happened since the 90s. So I made an overview, and I hope everything will work, and I see it here in front of my screen as well, so that you think where he's... I'm not a comedian who's looking at his notes, I'm just a speaker who's looking at the screen so that I know that we are talking about the same thing. In 1996, the first global event was happening in the Tibetan Freedom Concert, 1996. That was the first kind of stream on the internet. And in the same year, there was a rock group, Caduceus, a heavy rock band, that did the same with a 1-hour performance. But that was very early stage. And it took you about 20, 25 clicks before you were on your destination. But let's see what happened after that. This was an important moment, although no one will remember. Fab Channel in the Netherlands, from the pop venue Paradiso, where all the big artists love to play. Fab Channel started in HD live streaming video channel. It was amazing. Nobody could understand that they did it. And it worked very well and smoothly. There was one disadvantage. They did not organize the rights well. So in the end, the labels did not allow them to put all their artists online, which is one of the hurdles, of course. So it's in red. That means they went bankrupt because of that, unfortunately, after 3 years, and they fought hard. Then a big jump. We all understand what YouTube means. 2005, I think they changed the world. And there will be a couple of others that changed the world. I don't have to explain anything about that. 1 year later, the Metropolitan Opera started the Met Live in HD in the cinemas. I put them here as, it's not a streaming platform, but it is fully digital, and they changed the world as well, as we know. And later on, they added a video-on-demand platform to their service. Then Netflix came, another game changer, 2007. And to be honest, most of the platforms that are here now, they're all based on Netflix. My platform as well. We modeled it after Disney+, but in principle it is Netflix. So a paid subscription for great content. 2007, 2008, another game changer came. Spotify, audio streaming, also a free or a paid service, and no explanation. We know how they changed the world. Next step, very important, the same year. 2 very important new platforms came. Medici TV from France, from Paris, and the digital concert hall of the Berlin Philharmonic from Berlin, of course. And there was a third one. That was Monteverdi TV, was the one I launched. But that one didn't make it. We went bankrupt after 2 years. Too complicated, too many clicks. Nobody understood what we were doing, and we didn't understand it ourselves as well. But the digital concert hall, also with the support of Deutsche Bank at the beginning, but they had this great idea, supported by Sir Simon Rattle, and they, in fact, are the only orchestral platform that worked and still works very well. For me, they have been the inspiration for many, many years. But also Medici TV, they do all classical music, including opera, chamber music, etc. And Medici made it work because of subsidies of the European Committee. But they survived as well, and they're very live and kicking. So this is an important year, 2008. 2009, the violin channel came. He's sitting over here, and he will be on stage later, just from his, I guess, from his garage, something like that, in Australia. And as we all know, it's in number of followers, the biggest platform in classical music in the world. Also something to be very proud of. Then 2014, that is Opera Vision, a free platform organized by the European Committee. So many opera houses in Europe are connected to that, and they offer their content for free. I have to say, it's a great platform, and I don't like it, because it's for free and it's subsidized, and we are commercial and have a much harder time. But at least they did it. Then Apple Music came in 2015, and Idaccio, two platforms that you have to pay for. Idaccio is still there, and they came around the same time as Primephonic. You had Idaccio and Primephonic, and Primephonic was later bought by Apple. So an important year, 2015. Then 2019, we had to wait for a couple of years, and then Marquee came, based in London. A great platform, mainly for theater, but they also do orchestral performances. And Marquee is doing fine. They're very healthy, with a lot of subscribers. And then the pandemic came, and the pandemic changed everything, because we were no longer allowed to play for audiences. So what can you do? Send newsletters all day, or add your stories through websites with video. So video became a very important instrument for all classical music players in the world to communicate with their fans. Many orchestras started their own platform, like the Cleveland Orchestra with Adela, but also an institution like Harrison Barrett, the artist manager. They started the Virtual Circle, already closed down, but they did it. They tried it. And then 2021, Carnegie Hall Plus started, and New York Philharmonic started their own platform. New York Philharmonic announced recently that they had to stop because it didn't work. And their big example was the Berlin Philharmonic, but they didn't make it, while Berlin did. Carnegie Hall is okay, is doing well. Not that many subscribers they like, but they're doing well. Then 2 years ago, Deutsche Grammophon came with exclusive content from their artists, with Stage Plus. And we could start Symphony.live 2 years ago. And then last, and certainly not least, Apple Music bought Primephonic, the audio platform, and they started Apple Music Classical. And that made the consumer happy, and all the players that were competing very nervous. So this is an overview, and there's much more than that. Since I'm only working with orchestras, and now with a competition, I wanted to make a list of orchestras that started their own platform. That's very interesting. Have a look. It will run here. The first four, Lahti, Berlin, Gothenburg, and Stockholm, they were the front runners. They started, they still exist, and all of them are healthy. And then after that, mainly beginning of the pandemic, all the other orchestras listed in here started their own platform. And San Francisco closed down, New York closed down, and believe me, all of these platforms are suffering with technology, with marketing, with content, with the business case, all of them. And if I do the same speech 2 years from now, I think half of them will be closed, because it's so difficult to do this on your own. But it gives you an idea, and since I'm only working with orchestras, you can imagine that I have been focusing only on this. So let's see what brings us next. The importance of video. Since we are working with orchestras, of course we had to do a very tough job. For us, with Symphony.live, we want to invite every good orchestra that is having high quality video and is playing on a high level. So we made a journey on what happens worldwide. And we found out that worldwide there are 2,000 professional orchestras playing on a good level, being able to play Mahler, 2,000. And then I do not talk about the chamber orchestras, about youth orchestras, I do not talk about contemporary music, early music orchestras. If we add them as well, the professional ones, there will be around 3,000 orchestras that see themselves as one of the best in the world or very important for their local community. For them, we selected, so I have to say, we selected orchestras for our approach based on, do you have great video? And do you have a vision on the future? And are you different from the rest? So since that, we now acquired 25 orchestras in the last 1.5 years to partner with us. An overview of how important video is. This is an overview made by Media Research, a very important institution, and they found out how important video is in engaging artists beyond music. And we don't have to read everything, but as you can see, video is more important than audio in trying to find out more about your favorite artist. This is an overview of the subscription market in the world, starting in 2018. So this is including Netflix, Disney, etc. Yeah, it's there. So as you can see, it's a continuous growth. And the number of subscribers worldwide will be around 3 billion in 2030. So there's still a lot of room for new subscribers. And the good thing is that the big players, they divided the market. The Disney and HBO and Netflix. So the next billion will be for the niche markets. And that makes it interesting for us. So what happened to classical music in the digital world? Everyone has always been afraid for changes. So, but we know video never killed the radio star. Video has never killed the appetite for live concerts. Video only helped us in marketing. So video is a great instrument, and it's absolutely not dangerous to make a policy around it. But of course, the excitement of listening and experiencing a live concert goes beyond anything. It's the best you can have to be in that great concert hall, watching and listening to live music. But video presents an opportunity for all of us to tell more than the story behind the performance. That's something you can do with video. You can stream the performance and you can tell stories behind it. So it's something that you can bond with your audiences. So they will keep being engaged beyond the concert hall. So video is really something that all of us should consider, because I think we all know, just with common sense, that in 10 years' time, everything will be about video in the classical music world. So we are, let's say, in the start of a transition period. So for who do you make it? Whom do you make it? I made a couple of categories. First, accessibility. Many people worldwide don't have access to a concert hall. They're just too remote, or maybe too expensive, or whatever reason there is not to come to a concert hall. Maybe too dangerous, because they don't dare to go into their car to a parking place, etc., etc. And I clearly remember when I did my first live stream in 2018 on Monteverdi TV with Bach's St. Matthew Passion, that I got an email from a lady in a wheelchair from Australia. And she was crying in her email that she was so happy that we did it. And then I knew, oh, that's a group that we're doing it for. Then angles. Many people, they want to decide by themselves what they want to do, what they want to watch, what they want to explore. And then video is great, because you have so many videos that you can choose from. Then behind the scenes, the BTS. People want to know what's happening behind the scenes. They're so much interested in the stories. Well, you all do competitions. What unbelievable how many stories there are behind the scenes. Intimacy. Fans want to have a personal connection with artists and with orchestras or whomever is involved. So intimacy is a very important argument where you create video for. And then magic, for people who want to experience something they cannot experience normally. So this is who you make it for. And I thought, let's make a list with all the benefits for a competition. Why should you make video? What does it mean to your online consumer? So it's 10, so it's a long list. First of all, the story behind the candidate. That's exciting. I always want to know everything about the candidates. Even if they don't win, who are they? What is their passion? Backgrounds, the behind the scenes, like I described. But the competition timeline, much more interesting than an orchestral performance. Also, there's a winner. That makes it also very interesting. There's no winner in a classical concert, but there's a winner in a competition. Sometimes many winners. What about cameras? You know, competition and camaraderie, difficult word, I don't know if I pronounce it well. So it's the dynamic between the competitors, a special narrative. It's about the human aspect. It's so nice to make video about that. And then the jury. All the juries are very important people in classical music, renowned. They know so much. They can give you a lot of extra information, context about the competition. Then the interaction between the candidate and the orchestra or the pianist. And that's so nice to see that. It's all about chemistry. Does it work or doesn't it work? And we're talking about this online consumer that can follow all of that through streams. Drama, excitement, I don't have to explain. It's fantastic to follow that. Insights in technical and musical mastery. I would love to know more. I remember that as a journalist, I was following the list competition in a very early stage. And I could not understand the decision of the jury, not at all, because I thought someone else was better. And that makes it so fascinating, because jury members were explaining this to me, why it was technically so interesting. Then the emotional jury, the emotional journey of the candidates. Highs, lows, nerves, pressure, joy, relief. I want to see it all. And then the real-time interaction, if you're able to do that. Fans worldwide can react with you online, on social media, on your own website. So these are only 10 reasons, and there must be 10 more, why it is interesting for a competition to dive into video. Because you can reach many more fans worldwide than you can only in the concert hall. And then I believe it is important to find your voice. Who are you? So let's have a look. So as a competition, let's think about what matters to you. So what are your values? That's very different from the values from other competitions. Very different. So what are they? Define them and work from there. What is your why? Why are you doing this? Make that absolutely clear in the way you produce video. You can find your voice in that way. So what makes you unique among your peers? And what are the specific stories that you would like to share? And there's much more than that. But important for me always is make sure that you find your own voice. Make sure that you know what your why is. I have a couple of examples. We are working with a couple of beautiful orchestras, and we asked all of them, besides streaming a nice concert, please tell stories, give us context. And I have a couple of examples of 3 orchestras that made stories for us, and this is the Czech Philharmonic. For the Czech Philharmonic, it's all about the musicians. Have a look.
Já jsem v Praze už od svých studií na Pražské konzervatoři a HAMu a v České filharmonii působím od roku, tuším, 2014. Do filharmonie jsem se dostal skrze konkurs. Ovšem byl to tenkrát konkurs na místo koncertního mistra. Jehož podmínky jsem splnil, ale nevyhrál. Vyhrál můj kolega Vašek Petr, ale tehdejší šéfdirigent Jiří Bělohlávek vyjádřil přání mě nějakým způsobem získat taky a vytvořili pro mě tady tenkrát takový půlúvazek na tuty místo a zněl.
Sorry for interrupting it. So Czech Philharmonic always is making context videos to express what the musicians are feeling. It's about the musicians of the orchestra. That is their choice. And it's fantastic, because you see the backgrounds. In this video, they have been following 3 of their colleagues. But if you look at the Montreal Symphony Orchestra, they would like to highlight what's happening behind the stage. They are interested in what's happening with our music director, Payare. And here we see, at the end of Beethoven 9, what they did for our platform as storytelling. So, just as important as the other one, but a totally different story. It's about the hero. It's about the music director. It's about the soloist. That's how they would like to tell the stories. I think the same one is coming again. No. And then let's look at the Cleveland Orchestra. The Cleveland Orchestra, they like musicology. They would like to explain about the music that the orchestra or the soloist in this case are going to perform. Let's have a look.
I try to find things that have universal meanings, like fundamentals, like birth, death, the joy of falling in love, disappointment. I believe in those fundamentals, and I don't want to innovate myself out of speaking a common language.
So, orchestras, three different ways to tell the story. And every orchestra that we work with, we inspire them to make contextual video stories and do it in a very different way, in their own way. And what is good about all of them, they found their voice. And they found their voice, and the proof is that the orchestra members and everyone involved in the organization are proud of the stories that they did. Because in the concert itself, you can film on a couple of qualities. You can use 4 cameras, you can use 10 cameras or 12 cameras, you can record 2 days, 3 days, or just a live performance, but they are very close to each other. Let's talk about the waterfall strategy. The waterfall strategy I would like to introduce, very interesting. If you make a multi-camera recording of your event, it is much more than one single product. And we can learn from the movie industry, because the movie industry has been working with waterfall systems since many years. This is an old picture, I think 6-7 years ago, something like that. And here you can see what they did. They release a movie, they bring it to the cinema theaters first, then it goes to rental and transactional video on demand to be paid. Then they bring it over to subscriptional video on demand platforms, etc., until they're sure that they made all money possible from that movie. If you look in classical music, what we can do with a video, you can premiere your concert live on all kinds of platforms. Your own platform, local TV, on Medici, Facebook, YouTube. You can do whatever you like with it as a premiere. And then later on, maybe 3-4 weeks later, you're going to release it to, for instance, in the venue or in the cinema. It happens more and more. You make a special event out of it. And you can make special audio out of it for your local radio station. Or you can release it later on in a subscriptional video on demand platform, in the catalog, for instance, on Medici or on Symphony.live. And you can bring it later, the audio, to Spotify and try to earn some money over there, or to Apple Music. So this is the waterfall strategy. You make a big production, you use it, reuse it all over the time, like it's done in the movie world, and of course, connected to that with all the stories that you made. That is something for the social media to put to release it over there. That's a waterfall strategy that is very important. And we believe that if you make good video, so that means the performance plus all the extras that you can imagine, including whatever happens backstage, that you cut into 2 pieces and that you have a very clear release schedule so that you get the maximum out of that. Now we covered, I think, most important thing for this keynote to give context to the session, but I would like to end with a nice showcase. The collaboration between the International Conducting Competition Rotterdam and Symphony.live. You would ask why, because you are about orchestras. Yes, but many competitions work with orchestras, so we are keen to have many more competitions as our partners. For us, this is a perfect pilot project. And why? Because like Rob said, we know each other for many years. And it's easy, you know, we live 20 kilometers from each other, so it's easy to meet and to make the pilot work. And the collaboration in the past for TV, our TV stations, Brava and Classica, worked very well. But what is most essential for me is that Rob Hilberink and his team, not only for Rotterdam but also for the list competition, are having a very clear vision on the content creation side. It's high quality, it's absolutely necessary because classical music consumers are very critical. They have an archive of their first competition in 2022. Archive is important, otherwise there's nothing to share yet. They will live stream everything they do. This month, they will have the first live streams of the semi-finals and then in the finals in 25. They make candidate profiles, they have jury quotes, they have mini docs behind the scenes and much more. And what is interesting, it's several rounds. So it's a continuous story of more than 2 years that you can share with your audience. That makes it interesting for us. So yesterday we sent out a press release of our collaboration, and we sent it out yesterday because the competition starts in 2 weeks, or in a week, 1 week, it starts in a week, and we wanted to be ready for that, and I knew that I was standing here. So I thought, let's have it ready before Parma. So this is how it looks, and then we will switch with the great support of Nicolas in the back. We will switch to the website. Here's the website. So every partner is having their own page. So if we look, for instance, at the announcement that you made, yeah, this, Nicolas, okay, yeah. Yeah, let's move on. So if we then go back to their main page, and one more back. Yep. Thank you. Great collaboration here. And then we go, for instance, to the finals of 22 with the winner of the competition. This was the concept. Thank you, Nicolas. So, as you can see here, this is organized in shelves, exactly the same way as Disney and HBO and Netflix. They are having their own page. Every orchestra is having his or her own page, and we organized our website and the apps in a special way. And we will talk about that later during the sessions, how we think we differ from others. But I'm very proud that the collaboration is opened as of now. So thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to meet you afterwards. And we go to the last slide, Nicolas. Yes, okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Rob. I didn't know, sorry, I didn't want to make it a promotional video about my competition. I hope this is one of the last times we talk about my competitions. I want to hear more about other competitions. May I invite Jeffrey, Max and Alison to the stage, please, for the panel. Please, have a seat. Yeah, please join. Yes. So, I think it was a great introduction, Rob, what you said about finding your voice and creating content, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I sometimes feel, and I think maybe you would do as well, that we as competitions start creating content because we think we need to create content. And I'm really happy to have this panel here, because we have expertise of people that we work with who, because we create this content for our audiences. And and they know who our audiences are online. They know what they want, but we start very often produce content without real knowledge of, you know, what works, what does our audience want to know, as Rob explained, you know, what kind of things they might be looking for. So I'm really interested to hear, you know, about, you know, your initiatives, what your visions are on the content that is created and what your audiences are looking for. Maybe Alison, you can start off with Backtrack, and I think you have some slides to show us.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. I brought a couple of slides along so you can find out more about us, in case you don't know. Oops, going back. I think it's perhaps the largest site for live classical music. We publish quite a lot, 150 reviews a month in 4 languages. This is Janus looking backwards at the reviews and looking forwards at the events. Backtrack publishes listings, 30,000 or more a year. So there is a lot of content going onto our site every day. And I have to say, I believe that there are lots of people in this world who still read. I'm one of them. And so I still think that written content is a fantastic way to get across a message, particularly a message about a particular performer who might be a thinker rather than somebody who can just come across by being having lots of pizzazz. And so I think writing still has a really important place in this world, and I would be deeply upset if the only way we contacted each other was by video. So if you look onwards, and I will try and go on. Yeah, we have 3 million visitors a year, and those are the places we review. We review over most of the world, in 36 countries apparently. And we list in even more, in 47 countries. So we know everything about written content. And Backtrack is an extraordinary site. It's run by just 12 people, some of them part-time. And it's made possible by them being an extraordinary team, all specialists, and having, if I give my husband and founder here, David, a plug, having the best systems in the world so that we're able to publish quite so much edited content. And we publish lots of articles for clients, trying to get the best way of putting across their competition. And here we've got some examples in various languages of the Ionescu or a home page for a festival, which is something we do. So we are really the content creators for the industry. And that gives you an idea of the scope of what we do. Yes, we publish videos, but I would say our expertise is in the written realm. And that's how short it was. Thank you.
Thank you, Alison. Thank you, Alison. Let's just move down the line to introduce each other, and then we can come back to circle to what you just told about. Max, maybe you can tell a little bit about the digital concert hall.
Yes, thanks. Well, first of all, let me maybe look 5 years back, basically, which has nothing to do in my case with a digital concert hall, but rather with Adagio. Where I was working back then, I was with you in Norrköping 5 years ago in 2019, and I was explaining or trying to explain to you why producing videos and promoting these videos and showing them to the world and trying to reach a digital audience is important. And I think my presentation was kind of similar to yours, which doesn't mean that yours is now less relevant. It's quite the opposite. It's more relevant now because the world has become more and more digital and is still becoming more and more digital. And I can only encourage you as competitions to work with these people here around me because they have great platforms, they have audiences, they know how to reach the people. It's basically expanding your reach and getting out, spreading the word, getting your competitions and the recordings and the participants and the winners known by the world. That's my modest advice to you: make use of them. Use with these people who sit here on the couch beside me. Thank you. Shall I talk about the digital concert hall first, or shall we?
Maybe a little bit.
Shall I pass on? Yeah. So Rob mentioned it earlier. The digital concert hall was founded in 2008. So basically, it's 15 years old now, or just turned 15 years. Back then, I think, as you also said, video streaming or streaming at all was not very common. Nobody thought about that, especially not about video streaming or concert streaming. So it was kind of a pioneer work, actually, what not only the digital concert hall did, but also Medici and some others, and nobody knew where it would lead. So the idea came basically out of, I've only been told that, I wasn't part of the company back then, but the idea came out of a situation where the orchestra was touring through Asia, and they noticed, there are many more people wanting to watch or listen to that concert, and they just can't go into the venue because it's most probably sold out. And then after the tour, they've missed that experience. So the idea was, or the question was, how could we serve these people and give these people the opportunity to watch, listen to these concerts every time in any place of the world? And so the company was founded, basically. And since then, at Berlin Film Media, we are producing the entire, or recording, streaming the entire season of the orchestra every year. So every concert is recorded. The orchestra is playing 3 concerts a week, the same program 3 times. The second concert is streamed live. It's then on the next day repeated again for people in different time zones. And then it, a couple of days later, ends up in the, or not ends up, but continues living in the archive. So basically the entire season can be followed online. That's basically the story which we are telling. Basically the story of the orchestra, of the season of the orchestra in Berlin, is what we are telling as a story in the digital concert hall. And since then we have produced around almost 800 concerts which are there, plus interviews with musicians, portraits of the orchestra members. There are films in the digital concert hall, and of course we have also productions which have been done long before the company started, so we have licensed in stuff which is there. The idea is to give the full picture of the orchestra, to give an idea, or to give people the opportunity to experience what the orchestra did in the deepest possible way. So it's kind of a very different approach, very different from what you are doing, Rob, with your platform, which is a platform in a sense of giving everybody the opportunity to be there, which is great. In our case, it's the kind of rabbit hole. You dive in, you only have one artist, which is the orchestra, plus guest conductors, soloists, and the like. But in the end, it's about discovering classical music through the orchestra. So it's a platform not just for classical music fans. They would probably land on your platform or on Medici or on Adagio. The profile of our customer is a classical music fan who wants to listen to and watch, basically, Berliner Philharmoniker. That's what it's about. In a nutshell, in a big nutshell.
Thank you. Jeffrey, can you quickly tell about your endeavors?
Sure. So as... Is this on here? Hi. So as Rob said, I started Violin Channel in 2009 when I was still living in Australia, and it was just a bit of a hobby, a bit of something to do. And then I moved to New York in 2012, and that's when it became a commercial business. So it's somewhere between 12 and 15 years old now. What we're trying to do is, why it's called the Violin Channel. That was a bit of a faux pas to do that. It's always been much wider than just the violin. It's always been the string world and what the string world needs to know. And now, we really are trying to encompass everything that's happening in the classical music industry in our news. Our focus has always been on young artists, the development of young artists, about what's coming next. I guess I've found that more interesting than, an artist recording the Brahms sonatas for the 3rd time. So the focus has always been on those young artists and, what's happening in that world. So I think competitions have always formed a big part of that. We've been working with a number of you in the room. I can see Anne Rudder right there. I know I've been working with the Michael Hill competition for many, 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 many years. and Glenn Kwok, I can also see somewhere out there, working in Indianapolis. And now, more recently, we've also started partnering with piano competitions, chamber music competitions, to just, we have the audience there. We are not behind a paywall. It's sort of one of our philosophies that everything is always to be accessed for free, to make classical music accessible in the point of view of, not pretentious and sort of understandable, but also accessible, that it's free, that it's, nothing on our platform is behind a paywall, and also accessible, the fact that it's always available at any time. Pick up your phone, there it is right there. So yeah, that's pretty much where we are in a nutshell.
If I hear it correctly, you all consider your audiences different from each other. If you would need to define, what is your audience looking for in terms of content, or what are the things that they come to your platform for? How would you describe that? Maybe Jeff, you can start with that.
Mm-hmm. I'd say probably when I started, it was just social media, and it was probably had a very young string following. But I guess as we've really expanded, and the numbers that we are seeing now, we're consistently seeing across all our platform around 2 million a month. I think we kind of have gathered, all the different audiences within the classical music industry. Certainly, we're followed by the players, we're followed by the students, we're followed by the managers. We're really sort of seeing a broad sweep of the classical music industry now. It's much wider than it used to be. That said, it still is, probably because a lot of our driver is out of social media, and that obviously skews young. We are seeing our numbers are, they do skew quite young. That I think it's, last time I looked, about over 65% were under the age of 35. But that could be because, they're coming from social media. But the numbers we're seeing now, we really sort of have gathered much more than outside of just young string players.
And do you adjust your content or your tone of voice according to your audience, or?
We do. I think we're in that situation where everything that you post on social media, you get instant feedback on it. It's not sort of like, you're waiting to hear. Immediately we can hear if we've made a mistake. There's going to be a lot of comments there, if it's positive, if it's negative. And that sort of does drive you. We also have done, surveys over the years to get a real understanding of what our audience is, what they want to understand, on sensitive issues like, do you want to, we did, around, do you want to see more about diversity? Do you want to see more about, the Black Lives Matter, all of those different movements, to get an understanding of that, because it can be very polarizing. So we're constantly monitoring on the feedback and trying to adjust to that and give people what they want.
And do you also take in consideration the clicks in your newsletter, or do you base the order of your newsletter based on click rates, or is that something that's not measurable?
It's definitely measurable. I would say the newsletter is based on priority. What's the priority news, but also, if a competition is that we're partnering with, for example, they just announced their candidates this week. That's big news. It's going to be near the top. It's probably going to slide down, stay around for a while, disappear, and then come back around the time when your applications are closing, or it's a constant slide around based on what is happening. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily based on clicks.
And Anderson, if I may then pass on to you, same question. How would you describe your audience and what they're looking for in terms of content?
Well, ours is a much, probably much more traditional than Jeffrey's. It's an audience who cares about people who are in music from the time they are first discovered until they drop out at the other end. And so what are we interested in? We're interested in their journey through that life in classical music. And we interviewed Klaus Michaela when he first appeared on the scene, and we've interviewed him again now. Our audience is going to be interested in him when he first appears, and then at various times during his life, but we wouldn't want to throw him at you all the time because we think that would be pretty boring. And we get a a perspective of somebody over that amount of time. Our editors are able to, are reading so much about so many performers. So, as I say, competitions for us are the start of what should be a wonderful career in music, that we hope that they will be able to achieve with your help and with everyone's help, and they'll need that.
And the users of Backtrack, are they mainly using it to be up to date of what's happening now, or is the archive an even bigger draw of, you know?
It is certainly true that the archive, you can't see events in the past, but you can see articles and reviews in the past. And so we've done 20,000 something reviews, and so you can follow an artist in that way. And if we've written an article on any subject, as long as it's still current, like streaming, we did one with Adagio in it, 6 of the best, that will get thousands of views every month or every year, depending how long it's been there for, and it will still get read because people can still find that content. And that's something amazing about written content, that you can continue to find it reliably on Google.
But is it still sometimes relevant? Because I can, especially with reviews, you know, it's about the moment. I can imagine that it has a certain value, of course, for schoolers or, you know, or people who want to write a history on a musician to have these at your fingertips. But then again, what is written in there is not relevant maybe to an audience anymore.
It's more relevant to the business, I would say. If you're looking at a review of 5 years old, it's production which might be coming up again, quite likely to be in many cases. So that's relevant. And it's also just to see how someone's journey has been. But no, I agree. Mainly people are on Backtrack to see what's on, to find out what's on, what they can go and see, what's interesting, what's hot. And also to find out what we're writing about and who we're writing about, and to see what our recommendations are.
Well, Max, you already described your audience, but I'm also curious to hear, you know, how your audience is using the platform. Is it mainly also looking for the content that is coming out at that moment, or is the archive also a big draw for the audience?
It's actually both. So the story which we are telling is, of course, the live story. It's about experiencing the season of the orchestra, of course. Experiencing the live season in real time, basically. The orchestra is playing now, I'm live with them, although I'm sitting in Japan at the moment. So yes, live streaming is, of course, very important for us in our case, probably due to that story. If we were another setup like a platform case, I don't know if it would be that important. I remember in the Adagio days, or when we started concert streaming in the very beginning of the pandemic, live was interesting, but on demand also worked well, depending on how you promoted it. So it was not that crucial at that point in time, as far as I remember. But for us, it's, of course, part of the story to present the orchestra, the season of the orchestra, and being live with it. That's, of course, a big part of the experience, but the archive remains very important as well. Depends very much on how we communicate it. If we feature stuff again from previous seasons, be it concerts with artists who've been there before and who are now playing live again, or whatever, similar works, or telling a content story, and we feature it, then people watch it again. So it very much depends on how we communicate it. If it just sleeps in the archive, nobody watches it, or some people do watch it, but it's about working with that catalog, of course. Then it's becoming or remaining relevant for the audience.
And is there a big overlap with your regular concert goers who could come to the venue, or is it a completely different audience that you appeal to?
Well, regionally, or yeah, of course, it's a different audience, because most of the people who come to the concerts in Berlin are from Berlin. Of course, there are tourists as well, or people who come especially for the orchestra, goes without saying, but the audience in the digital concert hall is worldwide. Of course, that's what it's made for, basically. That.
Yeah, but it's not like your audience is using it as an enhancement for what you're doing or what they're experiencing in the concert hall, or maybe something that they want to rewatch again because they were so enthusiastic about what they just witnessed?
Well, it's very difficult to track if somebody who is a digital concert hall user has bought a ticket on a special day. That I don't know, but I assume that there are a handful who rewatch it, of course, because they experienced the live concert and liked it, and they, instead of, they can't go again, so they watch it there. That definitely exists, I'm sure.
You wanted to add something?
Yeah, just to say that we did some research, and the people on our audience looking for live concerts, 90% of them are also interested in video. So I would say there's a big overlap in those who are going to your concerts and those who are watching.
Whereas the online audience is, of course, much bigger, because, as I said, it's a worldwide one, and not everybody can come to Berlin every week. That's, yeah.
Rob, maybe you can add something from your experiences with the other orchestras you work with about this, this enhancement of...
Well, yeah, it's working. I think, first of all, you have to realize that we see ourselves as a technical company. We are a tech company with a big artistic heart. So everything we do is about data. Everything we do, we need to measure. Because from measuring what's happening on your platform, you draw very important conclusions, and you can go forward and learn and learn and learn and improve. What we did we did huge campaigns amongst all the ticket buyers with our partners. For instance, with Cleveland, they send out 120,000 emails. With Montreal, they did the same. Toonhalle Zurich, with London Symphony, we did huge campaigns. And do you know what we found out? They're not our audience at all. Only 2% of them were interested in watching the orchestra again or watching other orchestras on our platform. And so we found out that the online audience, and we did not expect that, but the online audience is a totally different audience than the audience that are ticket buyers for concert halls. So, and if we look then at what we found out of our data, what people are looking for, then you have two categories. You're having the explorers, and they dive into your platform. They find very deep all the content that you have. And they're interested in let's say, the curation that we heavily do. We curate everything. So we cut into two pieces, we make playlists out of it, and we combine orchestras, and we do a complete week of 6 times Mahler 2, and just for fun. That's for this exploring audience. But the absolute major part of our audience are very happy with guidance. They just need guidance. So whatever we put on top, in what we call it the Jumbotron, the big banner, or the rolling banner, it's mostly clicked. Whatever we put on the first shelf is the winner of the week. Whatever is down in shelf number 20 is hardly watched. So the way we curate and the way we publish it is directly connected to the results that we have. But our shocking finding was that the audience is not the same. And an interesting thing here is that during the pandemic, the Montreal Symphony Orchestra, they started streaming, and they started their business case, and they were extremely happy, but because they sold about 5,000 to 6,000 tickets per concert, which is great for a city of Montreal. But there were absolutely not the same people for the concert hall. No one, absolutely no one came back, were buying tickets for the concert hall. And the ticket buyers did not go to the online streams. So, and that was an assumption of ours. We really thought it was the same. But I have to say that if I would have listened better to the digital concert hall, when I talked, before your time, Max, when I talked to your colleague some years ago, your colleague told me that about 3% of the subscribers of the digital concert hall is really a ticket buyer in the Philharmonie. And maybe that changed over the years, but even if it's 20%, that means that 80% is a great audience out there that is interested in the Berlin Philharmonic. And that I should have listened to that, but I could not believe it. But our findings are exactly the same.
It's interesting. I'm not entirely sure if that comparison makes very much sense, because as said, our audience is a very international one. We have very strong market is the US, Japan, for example. All these people can't go to the concert simply. That's, I mean, let it be 5% of the concert of the streaming audience in the digital concert hall who all go to the concert. So what? I mean, it's good, but
isn't that great? Because
it's great.
95% of your.
It's great, but it's two different things. That's what I wanted to say. You can't just put it in one pot and say everybody who streams online goes to the concert, or everybody who goes to the concert streams afterwards online. Yeah, many of them, but the majority of the audience is somewhere else and can't go to the concert. And that's what you said earlier. It's about accessibility. That's very true. People who can't come to the concert because they live somewhere else, or it's too expensive for them, or they don't feel well, or they can't move, or whatever, they can just watch it and listen to it. That's a great thing. That's accessibility, extended accessibility. You don't have to go to the hall. You can just watch it anywhere and at any time.
But if I may add, Max, that for instance, for the Cleveland Orchestra, when we found out about this, they completely changed their policy, because they thought that that streaming video was an enhancement to what they already did, and it was a kind of service to their current clients. They completely changed because they found out that there are many more people out there that are interested in Cleveland Orchestra that never buy a ticket. So they started a new policy in servicing them as well. So they now have two groups of fans.
Yeah.
But then again, I remember well, Rob, that you told me, and it is also something that we experience, is that online audiences are changing in that respect, is that they are not looking for complete concerts anymore. And that they rather, just have a single movement or these small pieces where they can look for something are becoming much more popular than the whole concerts.
We started like the digital the concert hall is doing, because we copied a lot. Why would you invent it yourself when someone else is successful with it? So we started with full concerts. And we in the end, because of our data, we found out that only during the weekend full concerts are being watched. Friday and Saturday night most. And during the week we had to change our policies. So we cut the concert into pieces, in compositions and in movements and in stories. And we found out that from Monday until, let's say, Thursday night, people are watching movements, small parts. And that's something I didn't know from my former background.
We were talking earlier about competitions and just sort of reining it back into competitions. And we were saying what would be great would be to get not too many videos from you guys. Because I've had 30 or 40 from a client asking if we can put those up. Would that be a good conversation, a good question maybe for Jeffrey?
Oh yes, please. No, I think this is also something I wanted to get to. Is like, if we know these kind of things, what our audience is looking for, what should we provide in content? What is best serving your audience? Maybe Jeffrey, you can share some perspectives on that as well.
Sure. What we probably prefer is like full access to everything, because we sort of really know our audience. We've been doing a lot of coverage, and then we know. Also all of the people on my team, we're all musicians. We all can hear, pretty well. So, we love it when a client or a competition says, here, you can have access to everything. You can stream everything. You can use your own ears to take the samples you want to put on social media to get that interest in the stream. So from our point of view, and then we love to, when we partner with a client, to be there to create our own content specifically for our clients that, to drive to that stream. So for us, we sort of like the doors wide open, and we feel that's when, we can do the best job. Often when we sort of get content thrown at us, like here's an interview we did, who we did that, we're maybe not so interested in it. So we just prefer to sort of have the gates open and go in and pull out what we think is interesting for our audience. So.
Yes, but you also, you provide different kinds of content on different platforms.
Yep.
You really cut the videos to really small bites when you go to social media. What do you see is in terms of engagement? What works well and what doesn't work?
Yeah, so certainly on our social media, we're usually putting between 1 and 3 minutes. So we're giving people, a bite of what's happening, and then encouraging them. Here's the full concert that's hosting here. Because we are an international platform, most of the content that we are covering needs to sort of have a international appeal to it. And also, we do not put any personal opinion in anything we're doing. So we're doing no reviewing. What our real philosophy is to facilitate rather than to dictate. So everything, pretty much everything that we're working with has a live stream or has an element for people to basically go there and watch it for themselves, form their own opinion, chat with other people about it, rather than here's the Violin Channel's opinion on it. So, that's always sort of been a philosophy of ours.
And if watching, you provide the streams, but you also cut down, the concerts. I noticed, with my content, in the past, everybody would go to the streams. They wanted to make their own judgment based on, what is on offering. Then people, they just want to see the whole concerts of this one person, which they heard about. And now they just want to see one movement or one piece. They just want to have this short impression of what was the best in their performances. Is this also something you were experiencing, or?
Probably, yes. I think, I think people are wanting, we're now that we're covering so much content, there's, people are sort of wanting to get sort of a sample or a snack of everything. But I'd say, we're trying to always put samples of what's happening with the competition, for example, to kind of get enthusiasm, get people invested in what's happening in the competition. So then hopefully they will then tune in and watch the final, and they're invested in it. But definitely we've always sort of had a philosophy of, posting small amounts for those people that are interested to watch the whole thing. Here's where it's available. But also people who are not interested in watching the whole thing but just want to keep abreast of what's happening. They have the access to do that.
Yes, but it's so easy to, as Alison said, to create a lot of content.
Yeah.
But how do you curate then? And how do you make sure that the videos that you think are interesting are visible, or that you're not creating too much? Should be maybe cut down, or just focus on these snippets that are very popular, or should we still continue doing complete live streams?
Well, we normally stream the entire competition on a specific page on our website, and then usually with our major partners, we may stream the final also on our Facebook. Facebook is a great way, because we have over 500,000 followers there. It's a great way to kind of get a very quick, 20,000 people will drop in and go, oh, the final of Queen Elizabeth's on, or the final of Indianapolis is on, and they'll watch some of it, get some interest in it, and then hopefully go and watch the whole one. So we give our audience whatever, the different, however they would like to consume it. If they just want to consume the news, here's who won, here's some samples. They want to sit there for 4 days and watch all of them, great, it's all available. So, we try and cater to whatever it is they want.
Yeah, of course, the problem, Alison, that we as competitions have is, of course, is that, we are only putting on something once every 1 to 5 years. So it's also, you're quite dormant in certain periods of the year, and you want to interact with your audience. So how do you keep engaging your audience? Because what we're experiencing is also that you, especially when you work with platforms like YouTube or something, that the algorithm doesn't work for you if you're not visible for 3 years, and then suddenly you put out 100 videos in 2 weeks' time. Your audience get flooded with too much content, and they don't know where they need to start watching. So that's also a problem, of course.
Well, I think that's a really interesting one, because a lot of people focus all their budget on getting applicants, and then streaming the finals. And what I would say is, yeah, you may be only on once every 2 years, once every 4 years, whatever it is. But surely you might consider putting some of your budget towards the other times, the times when you haven't got something natural to shout about. And that's when you do interviews. I wouldn't say an interview with the winner as soon as they've won. How did you find it? Oh, I've won, I'm very excited. Great. That's all they say. I've seen lots of those interviews and they're very boring. Whereas wait a year, wait until they've been mentored by the people that you're providing. Wait until they've got competitions to talk about. And then there's something to write about. These people are much more substantial. They're not 18-year-olds who've only ever studied. And then you should do interviews with them. But if you have no budget left and there's nothing you can do realistically, whereas with a budget, you can say, let's interview somebody from a year ago, and there's this guy who seems to be doing really well from 5 years ago that I'd really like to bring back. And so let the content be natural, but just hold back some budget so you can keep yourself visible and that you can tie yourself, you can associate yourself with some of the winners from previous years who are clearly about to really spread their wings.
Yeah, it's still working. I completely agree with you. It's not about the finals only. Because I made this list of 10 reasons why it is important for a competition to make video. And for me, a competition, that's why I always liked it so much, it's a huge journey as an audience. And from step one, and in many cases it's a year before, and you get connected to the candidates and you see their struggle, and if you follow them and make in-depth interviews or following at home, studying, following workshops, being with their teacher, but also interviewing the audiences, interviewing the jury, etc., etc. That's 10 times more than only the finals. And that makes it interesting, and that's what I also mean with the waterfall strategy. So try to make as much high-quality video as possible, and then make a very good schedule of how you spread it out over the years, so that you keep you serve your audience with the journey, and keep it in your archive, so that people can always find it back. I think that's very important. And sorry, but what I wanted to add, I did not put it in my presentation, but it is not very expensive to make stories. And as of iPhone 10, the quality of the iPhone in filming is incredible. And most of your colleagues will have an iPhone 10 or later. So if you just have a good you make fantastic video with your iPhone. And every young colleague can edit it, no problem at all. So it doesn't cost you a lot of money, even nothing, to make this additional stories. Don't work with very expensive companies that are doing that. It's absolutely not necessary. And by the way, if you're a member of the team, you're much closer to the candidates, and they trust you, and they know who you are, so you get much better video.
Jeffrey?
One of the things we definitely do with our partners is, maybe they may only be every 2 or 3 years, but we're certainly, part of the communication strategy over those years is, if the winner does receive a certain amount of concerts, that we're getting photos from those concerts, maybe doing an interview at those concerts, because not only is it giving ongoing exposure for the prize winners, but also it's keeping the competition visible in the mind of our readers, and also just for potential candidates, that are coming through looking, going, oh, okay, that competition, I remember that was 2 years ago, and they really do come through with all these extra concerts and exposure for the candidates. So it's, when we're talking with a client, it's not just we're working for 3 months. It's a 2 or 3 year proposal to make sure that they do hit all of that ongoing.
But the question then is, of course, you also create your own content, and Addison as well. It's how happy are you with the fact that we as competitions try to create our own content, or would you rather be more in control and curate it yourself?
I think it's a mixture of both, or often we'll work with the clients to say, okay, we can't be there, but this is our format for how we would do an interview. You know, here are our specs for it. Could you please film it like this, use lighting like this, frame it like this? You can shoot on your iPhone, that's perfectly fine. You know, put a $30 microphone on it, and then provide us the raw footage, and you know, we'll take it from there. When something is, and then at the same time, you could be producing your own content where you have that artist there and you have everything set up, plus spend 10 minutes getting us the raw file, and then we usually cut it into our own. So for us, we kind of would prefer it raw and then dice it as our own content, but you know, it all depends.
Well, one thing I wanted to get to also is something that you said, you know, all these stories that you can create. I think a lot of us as competitions feel the pressure, like we have a limited time window with our participants. So in that time period of the competition, we want to create as much content as possible. We want to have every angle of this person on camera, so that once we make a documentary or we make a story, you know, that we have everything that we want. And I think sometimes both this creates a way too heavy workload for the participants and for us as a competition, but also it creates so much content that most of the times, most of it gets neglected, because you know, you never look at it again, because you're only focused most of the times on the finalists. Or so how could we as competitions maybe be more focused on what we create? So what should be the key elements that we focus on during a competition?
We usually don't jump into publicity on a competition until the semi-final round. A candidate who doesn't pass the first round, they don't really want it to be, you know, they don't really want it to be made that public. So, you know, when we're doing a partnership, we usually come in at that semi-final round when it's just the last 6. Maybe that involves interviewing all the last 6. But if we were there from the first round, interviewing all 32, number one, couldn't get produced in time. It would clog everything up. It would, you know. So I would probably just really dive into those final ones. They're the ones who really want this released to the world. Someone who loses in the first round, they're probably happy for it to disappear.
Rob, if I may add to that, I completely agree with you, Geoffrey. Focus on 5 or 6 candidates, but not only film them when you are meeting them. They are traveling, they're studying at home or wherever they are, and every artist can film themselves, or ask a friend, can you film me? So that you have portraits during the whole timeline of their involvement in the competition. And you can publish that so that people can follow them step by step, and keep it short. But I believe that's interesting, and not only focus on them when they are in Rotterdam or in Utrecht. That's not enough. I want to know what's happening with them every month.
But the question then also is, the content that we create, how much is it content for the competition, how much is it branding of the competition, and how much is it about, you know, these musicians? How do they get their own personal voice across, you know, and how is it beneficial for, you know, later in their career to have this content created without having the label of that competition attached to it?
Well, I would say it wouldn't be great for them. They'll look unprofessional, they'll look young, they'll look inexperienced, and so they're not going to want that content out. I mean, if you're talking to any singers, I don't know if there are any singing competitions here. Are there or not? Yes. So any singing competitions, the singers are probably not ever going to want that footage out if it's not good. And you can't just say, well, we'd like this for social media, because it'll stay there and it'll never disappear. And so you have to really think, what do they need? And what they need is a website. They need a website that Google can find. They need to have their events listed so that, and they need to understand the importance of getting promotion, doing their own promotion. And so events must be listed, so list them on Backtrack, it's the biggest listing site. And then make sure that you follow them and you provide them the necessary, you follow their careers, I mean, you don't do anything else. But you provide them with the necessary tools that they can have careers, that they can get careers. And I would say that unprofessional footage might be fun, but it's not something that most artists will want to end up with long term.
Well, I think there are two ways to approach this. I think you're right. Footage should never damage their brand and their career. But there's a huge interest, a personal interest in artists. It's not only about them singing or playing or conducting. It is much more. So if I look at social media, you have the website world, which is about information, and only people that search will find it. It will never be in your timeline, a website, never ever. But social media is about timelines. If you're on Instagram or TikTok or on Facebook, you find an artist in your timeline, and if then there's a nice story, you will like it. And I think there's this great example of the two piano brothers, Jussen, and they're now getting more and more famous. And what they do, wherever they are, they film each other at the airport, always. And they always fall. It's a trick, they fall. And you think, well, that's not funny. It is extremely funny. And they have a huge following on Facebook and on Instagram because they're just making short stories on the airport. Is it about them playing, about their great quality? No. It's additional content, and it's about human interest. So they have many more fans than the Lebec sisters. Many more, and I think the Lebec sisters are better. But they are having many more fans. It's because they understand that they need to connect to their fans on social media. So it's two worlds, the web world and the social media world.
But not everybody is going to be able to do that. And musicians are often very shy people, and they really find it difficult.
Yeah, but what I mean with competitions is try to follow their journey, but if the competition as an organization is publishing the content, there's a filter. So if the content will be damaging to the candidate, the competition will not publish it. So if they are making extra content themselves, they send it to the competition, they judge it, they think it's good, and they publish it, and then you protect them in that way. Because you're totally right, they should be protected and not make huge mistakes.
But the problem, Rob, is of course is that during a competition, you don't have the time to really dive into and to create content that is personal for the musicians. Quite often we divert to formats, you know, or we just have crazy interviews where you ask them questions and hopefully something will stick and there will be a funny comment that you can use. But it's not personal, and it's not authentic what you're doing. It's you're not giving a portrait of who this musician is. So the question is you know, the way that we go about in hopefully finding some content that is useful to promote what we're doing might not always be, you know, the best promotion or the best way to describe this musician that we want to promote.
But if you do it in a careful way, I don't think it is damaging. But I would really like all of us to be in a constant mode of experimentation. Just because we don't know what will be very successful in 2 years' time. We need to experiment all the time, finding your voice, finding ways, because if you experiment, you sometimes find something that you never expected, never. And then it's successful. So experiments for me is the basis of everything, but very important for the competition, you are the filter. Never publish anything that could be damaging.
Jeffrey, maybe you can add something about how you work with the VC artists, and because then there you have probably the same experience also with all the different characters that come by, and how you protecting their integrity.
Sure. So obviously, you know, I think, you know, the competition pool, or the pool of young artists that potentially are going to become soloists or, you know, top-level musicians, there's probably about 300 or 400 that are in that pool, and we really focus in what we call a VC Young Artist. It's 25 young artists that we believe at this point in time really have what it takes to have a significant career, and what they really, you know, what these artists really do need is they need publicity, they need to be known. So we're featuring them, we're following their lives. They need access to instruments. So if they don't have instruments, we're doing our best to make the introductions to get the instruments. They need, connecting them with donors, giving them career advice, giving them social media advice. And also for our readers, they can really grab hold of these 25 and say, oh, I know that one. So that's probably what, it's a program that we've had for many years now, and it's proven to be correct. Well, maybe it's chicken for the egg, but the previous generation of VC Young artists, they've gone on to solo careers and concertmaster careers. The 25 that we're featuring at the moment, or around that, all 6 of them were all the top prize at Queen Elizabeth last week. So I think that just proves that the ones that we are selecting are focusing on, really are the star young soloists. So.
And you create content with them also, especially?
We do. So obviously we try and focus our attention on them for our readers. So we're featuring one every week that we're rotating. We're working with them if they have a project that they want to do and they want publicity on it, then we're sort of working on that. We're trying to create content around them and sort of just make them like a talent team that's associated with the site.
And how do you go about that? Do you have multiple conversations to get to that content, or what's your strategy in that?
So, as in, how do we select them, or how do we?
How do you set out this plan of what you're going to do together during this period?
So normally, we're in pretty much constant contact with them. They're emailing us about all of their upcoming projects. They may have a festival they're working on, or they may have a big debut, and we'll work with them about, if something important in their career. We'll work with them, maybe do some editorial around it, and an interview about it, get social media, maybe do a video interview where, we're in constant contact with them to make sure that whatever career milestones they're hitting, we're there to help amplify it for them.
Okay. Maybe there are some questions or remarks from the floor. Yes, already one. Let's see. Does this microphone work? Yes.
Thank you very much. This is Andrew Freris from the Chopin Society of Hong Kong. We run a triennial competition, and we have run 6 so far, so it's 18, 20 years. This is a very important question for all of you, so please, this is not about us, it's about you. I was absolutely fascinated to hear about the overall experience with live streaming. Live streaming, very important to define what it is. It is streaming of a live performance, real time, as it happens, latency and all. Then it is streaming of something that has been recorded, and then it is streaming of a recorded of a live performance. And there is enormous mixture-up and misunderstanding of what is involved. They're completely different things. Now, what I'm going to ask you about is specifically on a live performance. It takes place as it is, you hear it, real lifetime, latency and all, and then that's it. It is gone. I was incredibly fascinated of what Robert told us about 2 completely different audiences. The audience that goes to live performances and the audience that is particularly interested in live streaming. And the reason why I'm raising this is that it must be something that for all of us in competition must be a very important component in the way in which we use live streaming. It has to be. Because we will be addressing, if Rob is right, we will be addressing completely different performances and different audiences. Now, in your own experience, and I like what Robert might have told us, is there something in there, in other words, that real live streaming is completely different from any other experience? Because there appears to be 2 completely different live audiences. Footnote. The Chopin Society has the misfortune and fortune to have involved in all of them. One of our competition was completely performed outside Hong Kong at the Eisenstand Palace in Austria, and then it was live streamed, all of it, completely all of it, to Hong Kong. Then we had bits in between
In other words, some live, some not live, and then we have live as well as streaming combined together. And incidentally, Marin Alsop, that will be talking to us later, was a crucial component in one of our experiments with live streaming. But that is a footnote onto that. So the question is are we looking at live streaming being given to completely different audiences? And if it is, then the strategy has to be very different. So it was a little bit long-winded, but it is a complex question. I'm aware of that.
I think audiences online, for them, live is when they watch. They don't care if somebody is playing at the same time on the other side of the planet or if it has been 2 days before. They watch, and if you present it as live, if it's still an event, then it's live for them. So I don't think that there is this real thing of the actual musician is playing at the same time as you're watching.
I agree with that. Obviously, any competitions we do, they're live. They're not pre-recorded, not edited in any way. But and I would say from that point of view, a live stream, it's kind of 10 out of 10 when it comes to stress levels that something could go wrong. And if we're streaming something on the other side of the world and it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and so, but a lot of our partners, particularly with festivals and with orchestral performances and with our own Vanguard concert series, often they're not live, they're recorded, and then there may be maybe some of the festivals they're slightly edited, like with slight editing from the rehearsal that morning, and then they're provided to us as a finished file, and we may be streaming them 3 days later or 7 days later, as a concert, and we just differentiate it by saying live from, if it's live, or direct from, if it's not live, if it's pre-recorded. But I think from the audience's point of view, except in the case of a competition, I don't think they really care that much.
With the list competition, the last time we experimented with having some delayed performances and some live performances, so that the online program would be a continuous program for the audience. So there was some pre-recorded videos that were transmitted in intermissions, or so that you have like a continuous stream, and that worked quite well. But for me, I see, as I said, and you see it also, for instance, with the Clyburn. We look at how many people are watching the live stream, and then the day after, how many people will watch the finals, and a month later, who then the numbers explode because people want to then they hear about it and they want to look at this recording. So for them, it's not important that it's live. They just want to experience what has happened at this competition.
Yeah, but in answering to your question, there is a very interesting way of viewing this if you look at the rights aspect. When we were starting, we did live streams, live. And then the artist, and then I mean the conductor or the soloist, they were okay, because it's live. It's like a radio broadcast or a TV broadcast. But we don't want to have it in the archive with Medici, for instance, for 90 days. So the orchestra did not feel comfortable, and they had problems with the musicians and the unions because of that. And since we want to have happy partners, we asked them, what do you prefer then? Yeah, we want to have the option to really edit it, and to edit it in a very good way. And this ended in that all our partner orchestras were given 6 to 7 weeks. Because when they edit it and they take mistakes out, then it needs to go to the conductor and to the soloist, because they have a right of refusal. That's in the contracts. So suddenly it was a live concert, but it was absolutely not live broadcast. And the orchestras and the artists felt much more comfortable. But like you said, Geoffrey, that's totally different in the case of a competition. Because in the case of a competition, I want to follow day by day what's happening.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of our clients are doing that too. Usually not, 6 or 7 months, but definitely maybe a week later, or so that they can do some small editing. From our point of view, we want to keep everybody happy. We want the soloists to be happy. We want to not have, it might be in our contract that we have to take down take it down off the site after 30 days, whatever. If everybody's happy, they're more than likely to want to keep it up on YouTube forever. They're wanting to, so I don't really mind. And from our point of view, it takes our stress level down from 10 to 10 and stress down to a 1 out of 3. That it's just feeding it into a piece of software to stream it, and the audience doesn't really know that much. And I don't really, obviously in a competition, it's not at all possible, but some small touch-ups on a chain music concert, I think it's fine. It's preferable.
Yeah, well, it's fascinating to listen to your experiences, but I would like, and it's probably a little bit late already, but I would like to ask you, what are the criteria of your success? Each of you, how do you measure that you are doing things right? And the second question is, I'm a former businessman, wouldn't be the criteria, one criteria, who is willing to pay for what I'm doing to me, how much? So, I know that cannot be the main one, maybe not the most important one, but I think, and your opinion is appreciated, wouldn't that be one criteria? And I'm curious not to hear 10 criteria from each of you. The 3 most important criteria, how you measure what you are doing as a success.
From my point of view, I know immediately when I'm not doing something right. I've had death threats emailed to me before. I've had people post my photo online with, in a social media world, immediately if you're not doing something that is pleasing or ethical or anything such as that. So, we get that feedback immediately, on social media with likes and angry, and we have that feedback constantly on everything. So that's definitely one. I guess, the metric of our numbers and how our numbers are growing and how people are interacting with it, and that's definitely a measurement of success. I would also say, as I'm meeting different people around the year and getting direct feedback or congratulations on something, that is as well. And then I guess also just as we, which clients we're working with, there's a hierarchy of in our industry. As we get higher and higher, I guess that's a benchmark of achievement. Maybe money as well. It's nice to be able to make money from something. So that for me would be our benchmarks. But we know immediately if we are not doing what the classical music industry wants, because there'll be emails, there'll be social media comments, there'll be everything. So we're constantly monitoring that.
I think for us it's about the same. You have your partners. They absolutely need to be happy, and they're happy when they are delivering a good cultural product. And when they're proud, and when their team and the musicians are proud. That's one. Second is a happy audience, and that's something you can measure. Because what is the reach? How long did they watch? When did they drop out? And then there's the business case. We are commercial. We don't have subsidies, and we have investors, and the investors want to have a return of investment because they helped us in setting up the platform. So you also need financial results, and that makes us as a company happy, and that means that investors are willing to put in more money in the development of our platform. So you asked for 3. That's the 3 that are most important: the business case, the consumer, and our partners.
I would go with return clients, 80%, financial independence without needing investment, and 30% growth of visitor numbers. Those are my 3 measures.
In our case, it's basically 3 things which we want to do right. That's on the one hand, the musical performance. We have a wonderful orchestra which fortunately it does that. The second part is the production needs to be as good as possible, and the third part is not to be underestimated, the platform. It needs to be presented in the best possible way and be accessible. And how do we measure success? It's as Rob said, it's the numbers, of course. The more people joining the concerts, watching them until the end, the better most probably our productions. And then we finally have two of the best critics. One of them is the audience, because they give us feedback. They write us what they like and what they don't like. And the other, probably even more precise critic, is the artists themselves. It's the orchestra, and it's the soloists and the conductors. And they give us feedback. And that's how we continue improving and how we know if we're on the right track or not.
And Sigurd, for me, it's only one criteria, and that is that the content that we create is meaningful for the participants in the short run and the long run. So that it's both an impulse in what they're doing right now and something that they can look on in the future as well and use to advance their career.
I would like to add one thing to the audience question, which you had before that. To the question of live or not live, or what is live at all. I think the live situation is, it's at least our experience, important. I said earlier, we stream a live concert really live every week, and we know that people switch on. They just want to see that live concert in that very moment. So that's important to us. And the second point is, I don't believe it's two different audiences. I don't believe that the audience which is in the venue and the audience which streams live or on demand or whatever is a different audience. I think it's just a question of access. We reach more people if we have something online, because everybody worldwide can access it. And the reason why I believe that is that it's not a different audience is that people who stream a concert and watch that content, they are not streaming it or watching it because it's there online. They would also go to a concert. What is the point of streaming something if I don't want to go to a concert?
Because it's a different experience.
But
some people don't want to go to the concert hall because they cannot afford it, it's too far away.
That's what I mean with the accessibility, but they would go to the concert if they had the money or if it was not far away.
No, but
it's the same audience.
I believe that many people many music fans of Berlin Philharmonic or any other orchestra that don't feel comfortable in the tempo of a concert hall because it's not for them. And let's not underestimate the numbers that are connected to that. And I would be extremely happy if we do have additional audiences that don't come to the concert hall, but do appreciate Berlin Philharmonic and take a subscription.
Of course. But I just don't think that it's, of course, it's about lowering, giving access, easy access, lowering the barriers. Going to a concert is for some people not comfortable. Dressing up or not knowing how to behave in a certain social atmosphere or whatever, a niche. But on the other hand, there are a handful of festivals who tried out how to break down these barriers and how to bring new people into the concerts. And I've seen a couple of them, and it's very important to do that, but I'm not entirely sure if that really attracts another type of audience. I'm not sure.
Well, if you look at Spotify and the classical consumer on that platform, majority is never going to a concert hall. So there is quite a big audience for classical music who never go to live concerts, which I found a relief, because it's what we always say, we need young audiences because we want to already be in their ear, so when they turn older, they will turn to the concert hall. That is already happening, but in a different way. But so I believe actually what Rob is saying, that there are different audiences for different platforms and for different way of consuming classical music.
Because of different accessibilities, that's true, but the motivation is not a different one.
Yes, Ariel Cohn from the Rubinstein competition. One remark and then a question. I think we have a very strong advantage as competitions because we can enjoy both worlds. If we live stream all the competition or the finals or whatever, people want to watch it because they are curious to know what's happening. They want to know who is playing better than who and who is going to win, and it's like sports matches. So we get this advantage. But then there are a lot of people who come and listen to it afterwards because they heard that this one is good, that was it's like that, and they want to see what happened in the competition. So we can enjoy both video on demand afterwards and the live streaming. I think it's a little bit different than a plain concert, where I don't see the big advantage of the really live streaming. Unless you really have no patience to wait until it becomes an edited video on demand. The competitions, I think, have a huge treasure here, because it's much more interesting. But now I want to ask you the question again about audience, but a different differentiation. What is the differentiation between audience that has to pay or free streaming? Can you distinguish between them? Do you have any information about that? And then I don't really understand some of your models related to charging money for watching, or is it free?
I'll go. I have one anecdote here. We were talking with a major festival in the US about streaming a concert for them. It was a very big soloist, a household name soloist, and they didn't know what to do. And we were pretty confident that because of the soloist with the platform, we could probably guarantee 100,000 views on it. They went the other way and they put it behind a paywall, a $10 paywall, and they sold 17 tickets on it. So I don't know, would it have been a better PR exercise to have done it our way for free? But that was the decision they made, and we got the feedback. It was 17 tickets sold on at $10. So I don't know. As I said previously, nothing on our platform is behind paywall. It'll never be behind paywall. So I don't really know, except when I get anecdotes like that. So,
well, if I raise a question here, and that's a very principal question. Why would you pay when you go to the concert hall and enjoy a performance, and why would you not pay when it's online? The musicians are doing the same effort, and the cost to produce a concert are huge. In the case of orchestras, 80 to 100 people are sitting on stage. They all need to be paid. The rent needs to be, the hall needs to be rent, etc., etc. So the cost and what do you think about the rehearsals? It's a huge amount of money involved. And for an orchestra, why would you let the audience pay that is coming to your hall, and the moment that you put it online, well, we believe it should be free. I think that's not fair. I think the orchestra should also profit from the income that a platform is making. That's happening with Berlin Philharmonic. They're a great example. They make money with the digital concert hall, and the money goes back to the orchestra, as it should be. And that's our business model. We share 50-50. We're not profitable. We have to wait for at least 2 more years, but the moment we're profitable, it's in every contract, we share 50% with the orchestra. And I think that's how it should be. And I really hate YouTube for that. Because on YouTube, everything is free. And who's paying for all those rights? And they have to rent the music. And who's paying the composer who wrote a new composition? I just think it's not fair.
So as long as there is lots of free music out there, I would say people will opt for free whenever they can. Yes, I agree that as a competition, you have a big advantage. And actually, one of the biggest orchestras in the world who has got their own videos up, their most successful video is actually a masterclass. And again, it's the live aspect. Anything could go wrong, and that does very well as a much more interesting video than a straight concert. On Bachtrack, we list concerts which are free, concerts where you have to register, and concerts that are paid for. And overwhelmingly, the concerts which get the most views will be the free ones, and that won't surprise you.
Yeah, but we have to change that paradigm because as internet started, content is free. Piracy was a huge problem. And piracy was a huge problem because the musicians are not getting any money for what they perform. So it's impossible, but the best way what we could do is to let someone pay for the content. It can be a sponsor. It can be anything, doesn't matter. And if a sponsor pays, put it out for free, because then the musicians are paid. And I think that's a fair deal. But as long as there's so much available for free online, it's hard to have a good business case out of content.
But I think in the case that I said, you know, it wasn't the musicians who are playing in this major orchestra for free. They had billion-dollar sponsors coming in there. It was, you know, they were paid for, but it was a matter of the organization had to make a decision. Do we use this as a PR opportunity to get 100,000 views on this, or do we try and monetize it? And, you know, I think they realized that they couldn't in that situation monetize it. But that's the only, you know, example. This was, you know, one stream. It's not a full platform full of archives like what Rob's talking about.
Rob Hilbering, we
Yes.
are running late.
Yes.
There's one question by Jaron, and if I may, also I have my own last question.
Hi everybody, Jeroen from Cleveland International Piano Competition. Wonderful, lots of very sort of things to kind of increase our knowledge about all that. I'm actually a little bit interested about the very basic of how you started, because as we know, there are so many platforms now, and we have some of you that have been around maybe for 15 years in this, and the symphony has been maybe for a couple of years. And you've been talking about, we heard 500,000 followers on Facebook and 3 million views for Backtrack. And I just wonder, how did you actually start getting these numbers? Like, where are you getting these numbers from? Like, how did you grow your audiences? What is the process being like? And how do you actually maintain and increase this?
So lengthy. We started in 2008 from our attic. And in 2010, we realized that Google actually wasn't interested in an event finder, because we were just a UK event finder until people from abroad started putting their events in. And so we started looking for reviewers, and then we went multilingual. We're now in 4 languages. So it took us a very long time, because we opted for the not getting investment. It was just the way we chose to go. And we said we must finance everything that we do. So we have. And you know that this is a very non-rich industry. Nobody has enormous budgets. And actually, I'm going to say 73% of all digital marketing, digital advertising spend goes to just 2 people, Google and Meta. So if you care anything for content, you have to support the people whose content you like, because otherwise there'll be no one sitting up here next time. So it's a long journey for us. We've made it to where we are, but it's always a question of where the next bean is going to come from. And so that's for us.
For me, I had studied to be, you know, a violinist and violist, and then I'd gone to business school. I didn't want to play anymore. I worked in that for a couple of years. I always wanted to work at somewhere like Lincoln Center or Barbican. That was always my dream. You know, within the marketing or administrative side. And I remember being in Australia, and I kept applying for jobs at the symphony there, and I kept getting rejected. The marketing manager job kept coming up, and I kept getting rejected for it, like even getting an interview. And I remember I called them up one day and said, could I have feedback on my application? And they said, oh, we thought, you know, your marketing experience was excellent, but you didn't have it, and you did have this music degree, but you didn't have any arts experience. So I remember when I first started Violin Channel, it's just uploading things and doing things. I remember thinking, well, no one can say I don't have arts experience anymore. So that literally was, you know, it was just something I was doing for fun. For the first 3 years, I had a full-time job, and then after 3 years, I moved to New York, and then I managed to get advertised on the site from that. But I don't remember what my initial motivation was. It was just something to do. It was kind of fun. Then I enjoyed it, and then I just found a way to make it my career after that. So, but there was never a grand plan at the beginning.
Yeah, for me, my first platform, Monteverdi, failed and went bankrupt. Everyone lost a lot of money, and we lost a dream. And then after that, I was so lucky to step into the television world when we could set up 2 TV channels and later a jazz channel and a festival channel. It went very, very well, broadcasted in 60 countries. We were extremely happy. And it was taken over by a Canadian company in Montreal. And then I thought, because I always looked at the digital concert hall as a better platform than Medici, although I love Medici, but it was so focused on one orchestra with very strong content. And I couldn't help to follow my passion again. I thought, it should be possible to connect the classical orchestral world with media, because we need it. We need new audiences, we need new business cases, we need reach. And then I found this report in 2018 of Media Research, the one we saw a couple of times. And they figured out that in the Western world only, including Japan and South Korea, if I may call it like that, there are about 500 million classical music lovers, 500 million. So, and then started making calculation, what percentage of that do we need to have a fruitful business? And then I thought, well, if we do a good job, there's room for all of us, because no one of us, apart from you, Geoffrey, because no one of us is close to 1 million subscribers, no one. But so it means if we only have 1% of this 500 million, that's enough room for 10 great platforms. And then I thought, okay, let's do it one more time. I was 62 years old, and let's do it one more time. I put the money I earned in that platform, and I found great impact investors, so not return of investment investors, but impact investors, 15 of them, and they were willing to put money in it, and they did it for a second round and a third round. So I'm extremely grateful that they followed my dream. It's in fact, it's a one-person dream, and now not any longer. We have a great team, we have the partners, we have the investors, and most important, we have the musicians and the viewers. So it came, answering your question, it came out of passion, but I am happy that I did it again, because in the end I will die, and then the orchestras and the consumers will profit from it.
Final question, Peter Paul.
Yes. I have a question to you, Rob Overman, because you went to bankruptcy and you are now leading a successful project. Looking from outside to the World Federation, do you see any potential that the Federation runs its own video platform? Because we have such qualified partners, we have all the content, so on the end of the day, we only need to put this together to moderate and to create the right framework. Or do you see it really weak in front of you, all platforms?
Well, I think potentially it could be, but the world might be a bit too small. On the other hand, how many members are there?
120?
Yeah, that's a lot. If all of them would participate. But, you know, when I have looked into what are the major genres within classical music, and there are only 2 that are big enough. That's orchestral and opera. Those are the 2. And I really thought, because I'm a big opera fan, I really thought to set up an opera platform. That was my choice, orchestral or opera. But then I realized that in opera, the unions are so complicated. You have so many unions involved in one opera house that it's not doable. And they have all these singers that are very complicated. And so I thought, if we focus on orchestra, it's possible. If we now look at competition, yes, we also have a white label solution for other partners. It could be possible. But I do not have a real feeling how many consumers there would be worldwide to do it.
We can ask Arthur Kleiner of the Chopin competition or Jacques from the Van Cliburn what they, as numbers, have without being yet part of a platform. But
so I'm just going to ask you, because I'm neutral in this conversation, I'm just going to ask you why on earth you'd want to, when you have the violin channel, frankly, who has this enormous visibility. And you can't just shove it up there. I mean, they'll be doing a heck of a lot of work to make it the success it is. You've got a team of how many?
17.
17. So I can tell you, any bodies, like industrial bodies, who think, well, maybe we can do this ourselves, first of all, you've got to get the audience, and that takes 15, 16 years, we've agreed. So I think it would be daft to try and compete when you have a solution right on your doorstep.
I agree.
And I would advise you, don't think about exclusivity, because consumers are mostly focused on one kind of platform. Put it out, bring it out everywhere, because that's what brings you most reach. And I think many of you are doing that. And I really believe, bring it to all the platforms, to Medici, bring it to Geoffrey, if possible, bring it to us and to others, because then you have most success. If you do it alone, I think it will be hard.
I agree. I think too many people are concerned with proprietary, and this is mine, and I recorded this, and I invested the money on this, and I don't want it to be shared. And I just think at the end, it's the event and it's the laureates that lose out on that. So I think it should be to be able to be consumed by people in whatever format they get their news from, or they want to hear it. So.
And you're all active in different part of the world as well, so you reach different territories.
Right.
You know.
Well, we are truly international. When you look at it, we're not.
I think all of us are international.
Yeah, but still within being international, you still have central markets.
Well, we're definitely English speaking. We're only in English, so yes.
Yeah. Or for instance, Amadeus TV. It's okay. Then we wrap it up and we continue tomorrow. Thank you for your attention. Thank you so much. One more important announcement. There is a meeting in the lobby, am I right? A reception. So there were drinks involved.